the drum that played on Easter night. Long before electric light reached the village, long before the road to the city was built, there was a quiet village called Oba, a place surrounded by thick forests, where the wind whispered through the tall iroko trees, and where the elders believed the spirit of the ancestors still walk among the living. But in the center of that village stood something everyone feared, an old secret drum. The drum had not been played for 20 years, not since the night something terrible happened. Yet, on one strange Easter night, when the moon hawk fell above the forest, the drum began to play again, and no human hand was touching it. The drum was kept inside a small shrine at the edge of the forest. It was carved from the trunk of a secret tree and covered with animal skin that had darkened with age. The elders call it the voice of the ancestor. Long ago, it was beaten only during important moments, during harvest celebration, during war warnings, and during secret ceremonies. But 20 years earlier, during a festival, a greedy chief tried to use the drum to declare himself king over every nearby village. That same night, a storm unlike any other struck Oba. Lightning split the sky, the shrine caught fire, and the chief died suddenly before dawn. From that day on, the elders locked the drum away and declared no one must ever play the drum again. And for 20 years, the drum remained silent. It was Easter evening when the strange thing happened. The villagers had finished their celebration. Children were sleeping, the cooking fires were dying, and the village was quiet. Then suddenly, boom! A deep sound rolled through the air. Boom, boom. The sound was slow, heavy, powerful. At first, people thought it was thunder, but the sky was clear. Then the sound came again. Boom, boom, boom. The villagers sat up in their huts. They looked at each other in fear because everyone knew that sound. It was the secret drum. Doors opened. People stepped outside holding lanterns. Whispers spread through the darkness. The drum is playing again. Soon, the whole village gathered near the shrine, but no one dared enter because the drum continued to beat by itself, slow, steady, like a giant heartbeat in the night. Among the villagers stood a boy named Sola. Sola was only 12 years old, curious, brave, and known for asking too many questions. While the adults argue about what to do, Sola listened carefully. He noticed something strange. The sound of the drum was not coming from the shrine anymore. It was moving slowly deep into the forest. Sola whispered to himself, "The drum is walking." Without telling anyone, the boy followed the sound. Step by step, he moved into the dark forest. The trees were tall. The night air was cold, but the drum kept beating. Boom, boom, boom. The deeper Sola walked, the brighter the moonlight seems to glow ahead. Finally, Sola reached a small clearing, and what he saw there made his heart nearly stop. In the middle of the clearing stood the secret drum, but it was not standing alone. A glowing figure stood beside it. The figure looked like a tall elder wrapped in white light. Its face was calm, ancient, and its hands were gently beating the drum. Boom, boom. The sound was softer now, almost like a message. Sola's voice trembled. Who are you?" The glowing figure slowly stopped drumming. Then it turned to face the boy. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind moving through the trees. "I am a messenger of the ancestors." Sola's knees began to shake. "But why are you playing the drum?" The spirit looked towards the distant village. Then he said something Sola would never forget. The message. Your village has forgotten something important. Sola swallowed. Forgotten what? The spirit raised its hand towards the sky. Tonight, the world celebrates Easter, a day of life, a day of renewal. But your village celebrates only with food and music. You have forgotten kindness. Sola thought about the village. He remembered the old widow who begged for food, the poor farmer whose crop had failed, the children who went to sleep hungry. The spirit spoke again. This drum once called people together to help one another, but now the sound of the drum has been buried beneath selfish heart. The spirit lifted his hands above the drum. Easter is not only celebration, it is the rebirth of the heart. Then the spirit looked directly at Sola. You must remind them. Suddenly, the forest wind blew strongly. The glowing figure slowly faded like mist in sunlight. The drum gave one final sound. Boom! Then everything went silent. When Sola returned to the village, the people were still waiting in fear. He told them everything he had seen. Some villagers believed him. Others laughed nervously. But the village elders spoke quietly. The ancestors have spoken through the drum. That night, many people went home thinking deeply. When morning came, something strange had happened in our village. At the door of the poor widow's hut, there was a basket of fresh food. At the house of the sick farmer, there was bags of yam and rice. At the small hut where hungry children lived, there were fruit, bread, and warm soup. No one knew who had placed the food there, but many villagers quietly smiled because deep down they understood the spirit message had reached their hearts. Later that day, the villagers went to the shrine. The secret drum was back in its place, still, silent, just as it had been for 20 years. And from that day forward, the drum never played again because it is no longer needed to. Now, the people of Oba village had remembered its message. And so, in that quiet village near the forest, people began helping one another again. The hungry were fed, the lonely were visited, and the spirit of kindness returned to Oba. Because sometimes the greatest miracle of Easter is not a drum that played by itself, but a heart that leans to beat for others. True resurrection begins when people revive kindness.